recorded. How are you today?
Well, thank you.
Excellent, excellent. So we're just doing a bit of a status update on the Gapuiak project.
Yeah.
So we've just got a quick presentation that I'll run you through. I'll just share that screen. Bear with me. And that one. Now, can you see, you got that presentation there?
Yes.
Okay. And you should also have a picture of me.
Yes.
Righto. Okay. Gapuiak, our design and construct project up in the Territory. So what are we going to talk about today? There's a few things there, but keep it fairly short and sweet. Yeah, I think most people know where we're up to on this one. But we'll start with an acknowledgement of country, just to pay respects to the Olney peoples whose land the project sits on. We recognise their enduring connection to this land and their role as the First Nations people. We extend our respect to their elders past, present and emerging, and to all Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people that we're working with that are either near present in this meeting today. So just a refresher, what are we building? Okay, so we've been asked by ACAP to design and construct a new arts and community centre to replace the existing facility at Gapuiak. We're intending that this will increase their production space and display areas to assist with reinforcing their strong cultural connection between community and the homelands. It also provides an important economic benefit to the region. Specific requirements for this project, as set out by the Commonwealth, they've given us some guidance documents that set out their expectations, and those being the Statement of Requirements, covering roles, responsibilities, the existing design, which was effectively a conceptual design, the deliverables for the construction contractor, which will be us, or our client, sorry, project controls and communication protocols. The second document's the functional design brief, which sets out the infrastructure philosophy and policies, effectively the intent for the design and how the building should be utilised in a practical sense. General design protocols being the standards and technical specifications relating to design work. Primary and secondary building elements, so the building blocks, the features of the building, those mandatory aspects, amenities, accessibility items, air conditioning, those kind of things. And then the functional performance outcomes, which are somewhat subjective. They are those things that the building should give for the community and the users of that building. They're quite difficult to translate into design. So there's always an element of inherent risk in functional performance and design being fit for purpose when we're translating a design brief into an engineering specification. Quality objectives. What were those quality objectives that the Commonwealth wanted this project to deliver? They wanted it to encourage best practice quality management through planning and continuous improvement. That's fairly straightforward and common sense and should exist on all projects. They want the project to be able to prevent and minimise adverse quality impacts. So our design needs to be smart, needs to be practical, it needs to be foolproof. It needs to be optimised to provide value for money for the Commonwealth, which is difficult in a very remote regional location.
Yeah.
Especially in the Territory with wind and cyclone and monsoonal impacts to consider. And it needs to achieve the additional objectives specified in the contract particulars.
Just remind me, what were those?
This is the issue that we have around fit for purpose. So it's introducing those functional performance requirements into the quality objectives, which we've been discussing with Commonwealth back and forth for a number of months now, as you're aware. There is a contractual requirement for us to translate those subjective feelings about how the building should perform into a technical specification, and we're yet to resolve that, but I'm sure that common sense will prevail, and providing we continue to consult with the community and the ultimate owners, ACAP certainly won't stand in the way of us incorporating that consultation into the design process.
Okay.
Our schedule objectives. So it's June now. We have submitted our management plans on time, mid-May. We are pushing ahead and probably meet our 100% IFC design submission date early. We're expecting that to be within the first week to 2 weeks of July, including our own internal reviews and approvals. So we are required to submit that to the Commonwealth, to ACAP, for consideration and approval prior to giving approval to proceed to construction. That's currently still on track, pending that approval in September. So we're anticipating access to site late September, with mobilisation shortly thereafter, which would be early groundworks and some site fencing, security, erosion and sediment controls, and then installing our camp mid-October. All the construction activity will be on pause over a wet season, but construction should be quite rapid, and we anticipate having certificate of occupancy by 10th of May, with PC and defects commencing immediately after that certificate of occupancy. Yeah, so that schedule's a bit impossible to read at this scale, but that is our contract schedule. It's on file on SharePoint, so we can dig into that if you need. But the key points, the milestones on the previous slide, the key points there: we have an anticipated wet season running December through to May. Hence, it's critical we get an early start in October on site and get the majority of that work done before wet season kicks in.
Yeah.
We certainly want lock-up stage prior to wet season running. Critical path naturally runs through design, being our early deliverables, and then through groundworks, the modular paneling being all of our walls and ceiling in lieu of conventional framing, and then the internal finishes, which is entirely expected. Certainly nothing out of the ordinary, and that modular system does improve our ability to push through and finish the structure, ostensibly finish the structure prior to wet season.
What's the risk in this? Where's the risk in this if things change? How are we managing that?
Yeah, well, I mean, the big risk is any delays prior to wet season. As you know, the site's inaccessible. Those roads are cut off for the entire wet season, meaning no transport in and out, other than barges in from Darwin or from Groot. So substantial costs that would be shared between us and the Commonwealth, but we need to minimise that. ACAP are aware of this risk. It's always been flagged as the most critical risk for the project, and I guess there's an acceptance by the Commonwealth that if the project's delayed into the next dry season, they will pay for delays, but it's not an optimal outcome for the community. They certainly want to see this built as quickly as possible. So it's a risk in terms of project delivery. It's not a risk to us as a business, not financially. Reputation, it wouldn't be great, but
Yeah.
There are a lot of things out of our control, and predicting when the predicting when the build-up starts and then wet season truly sets in, that's completely out of our control. We're just doing our best to push through as quickly as possible at this point.
Yeah, understood.
To an extent, our design activities have been structured to remove those wet season impacts from the critical path, meaning we've been able to rapidly progress through this phase to get to construction as quickly as possible. So we're hoping that Commonwealth accept our 100% IFC submission with limited comments, limited amendments required, and we can get an approval quite quickly. We've also, pulled forward our submission of all of our management plans and had those approved prior to commencing design, which has won us probably about 4 weeks. That's the tail end, showing that critical path running out to PC date. Our budget, original budget set at just shy of 3.3 million, and the key the breakdown there of the key components. So design sitting in around 360,000. We're on track for that. Overheads, staffing and survey are all going to be time dependent. That's based on our current program. Construction costs linked to procurement, which we'll get into shortly. And margin sitting there is currently agreed margin. Again, that's probably the only thing we're at risk of losing, given we'll be compensated for any program impacts if wet season does extend the schedule.
And all these are on track?
Yeah, currently we're only burning through design and overheads. Staffing, survey and construction yet to be realised. So once we obviously get access to site, those cost centres will be triggered. Design costs are running fairly close to plan. I think we're planning about 10,000 under budget. And overheads, I think we're looking pretty good on those at this stage. But again, holding a reasonable amount of overhead back in anticipation of potential changes to schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Our project team, so currently I'm managing the design interface with our 2 key designers, the architect and the civil structural designers. Our client is providing the rest of the project team. So we're only really going to need 1 engineer on site with a supervisor to support, and they're going to be on a back-to-back roster to ensure we've always got at least 1 senior person on site. Procurement and logistics support in the early days of the project, just working through pulling together everything coming into Darwin before we rebundle and send back out on our own transport, just consolidating freight really. Project admin will be on site. We have potential of actually employing a local administrator from within the community. So we're just working through that at the moment. Contract administrator will be off-site in head office, providing support as required. Safety manager's a part-time role, be fairly hands-on, setting the project up, so safety environment, and then it'll be monitoring and auditing and compliance throughout construction. Completions and commissioning manager we will be bringing in towards the back end, just ensuring we have all of our certificates, our building occupancy approvals in place. Surveyor there setting out early. We'll need them there for a few weeks just to do set out while we're doing the shorefoot foundations. And they'll come back in to assist with setting out the external works. So we've got the external sewer, water, electrical in ground, and then the driveway and landscaping.
And you're confident these are enough people?
I think it's probably overkill, to be honest, but it's what the Commonwealth are expecting. The only question I'd have is whether or not the client's going to have enough supervision on site. They're intending to run back-to-back 7-and-7 rosters, so I'm not sure if the engineer has the right amount of supervisory experience to be managing the trades on site. So that's a conversation we'll have to have, but I think it'll probably be a bit of trial and error. Our trades procurement packages that we've identified through project planning to date. So obviously our camp is fairly critical. We'll need that on site to be able to accommodate all of the other trades. Have them mobilising 20th of September. We'll be out there beforehand just doing some groundworks and levelling the site. So the camp will be set up within the footprint of the project, or within the boundaries anyway. Our Surefoot foundations coming in mid-October. And then what else have we got there? Obviously, we'll have the haulage and the logistics contractor on board from day one. Yeah, those long lead items that we've pre-procured, or we have agreements in place, being the SIPS panels, so our modular panel system, and the foundations. Those SIPS panels require detailed design and shop drawings to be prepared first. We have a budget and an MOU with the supplier in Perth, but it's a bit of a case of a dog chasing its own tail at the moment, that they can't confirm their pricing until we give them shop drawings, and we can't provide them shop drawings until we've settled on a firm budget, which the Commonwealth need to progress approvals.
Okay.
So doing what we can there. Timber is still quite volatile in the territory, and the same with windows and doors. We do need to get detailed design locked down and get orders placed with those guys, so at least they can set aside or produce and then set aside materials until we need them. You can see there's a number of other long lead items towards the bottom there, but relatively low cost in the grand scheme of things.
What are the real risks in this procurement plan?
The real risks, so we're talking about them right now. So we've got our procurement management plan. We've developed some practical strategies already. We know that this project is heavily reliant on our subcontractors. We will be doing very little of the work ourselves. So we are conscious of long lead items. We're very conscious of those sub-elements requiring design. So that's the SIPS panels, the foundations, and framing and trusses. They all have an element of design. There's some steel work in it as well, and some of the fit outs. So we're relying on our subcontractors as well to provide design that we'll have to incorporate into our final design. The other risks, I guess, we've engaged with the market on the basis of effectively a conceptual design. So there will be changes as we go through detailed design that we'll need to circulate with our supply chain. Mm-hmm. So we can anticipate that there will be some changes in pricing. Ideally, we'd like to optimize that pricing and with more detail, be able to drive prices down. But as always happens, you go and provide more details, and most subcontractors look at that as an opportunity to reprice or reconsider their already won the project, and they'll actually increase their prices. We can't do a lot with that at the moment, other than through consulting with our suppliers. We're also conscious of being unrealistic in our expectations of schedule and budget performance with those suppliers. we've been working closely with ACAP on this to, I guess, manage their expectations around schedule and cost. And so they're aware, they're not out there to be trying to harm the local supply chain. In fact, they're quite supportive of any changes within reason, I guess. The technical and financial capacity of our vendors, I guess, given we're preferring local suppliers, this is quite challenging. A lot of our suppliers are quite unsophisticated. You can surmise from the professionalism of their proposals or their quotes to date. We've had a couple of handwritten quotes coming through from suppliers that we will have to rely on because they're the only ones capable or the only ones with capacity within 300 kilometres of the site. So we do have to work with them. We're trying to take something of a soft-handed approach to working with these suppliers, walking them through the technical specifications. Commonwealth's quite unforgiving in terms of quality around the technical side of the project. They're quite regimented, which is not unsurprising for a defence department. So we're actively working with supply chain to manage technical aspects and ensuring that we're doing our due diligence as well around financial assessments. Prior vendor for performance is really, there's not a lot of these projects being built in the region, so it's hard to draw a comparison. So a lot of these companies are coming to us and have been referred through second and third-hand kind of referrals. So it's difficult to apply all of our usual assessment criteria to selecting vendors when we've got a very limited market to engage with. Ultimately, we're trying to comply with those local industry procurement policies and Commonwealth procurement policies, and working quite hard with those suppliers to ensure that we all comply. So where to from here? Finalising that design review and submitting our design change request. We will need to amend the concept design, so contractually we do have to get approval to do so. We're confident that we will be able to do that and submit that 100% IFC, and then we should have no issues with approvals. We'll then move on to get approval to execute that stage 2, the design and construct contract, with the design already in hand. Our project plans for stage 2 will largely just be a refresh of our stage 1 plans, so I'm not expecting that to take long at all. Once we've got that detailed design, then we'll have to confirm all of our trade pricing and get our subcontracts in place rather rapidly. We've got all of those drafted anyway. It's just a matter of putting in key terms and detailed design and updating the schedule. So we should be able to roll those out pretty quickly. Northern Land Council approvals, we've already engaged with those guys prior to the camp going in. I'm not expecting any issues with that. Shop drawings, really important to get those across to the SIPS manufacturers in Perth. And then all of our documentation has to go to the building certifier for approval, and they'll be on site just to monitor quite regularly through construction and mobilisation. So
remind me what the mobilisation date was?
We're looking at site access late September, and then on site installing the camp, I think by about the 11th of October.
Okay.
So as soon as that camp goes in, it's just a fly camp. So we should have that in place within about 6 days with power on, water on, and then be able to start mobilising our groundworks team. Any other questions?
No other questions from me.
Sure.
All good.
All right. Thanks for your time.
Thank
We'll
you.
talk soon.
Talk soon. Bye.